Oh boy, welcome to this podcast. And it's a biggie this week. We've spoken to a company called Radia. Their marketing director, Hanna, was kind enough to find some time at the Farnborough Air Show. You might not have heard of Radia, but they're developing the largest aeroplane in the world. And I mean large by a big difference to today's technology. It's got a lot to do with decarbonization. It's got a lot to do with sustainability. So who would have thought the people who are building the largest plane in the world are doing it to save the planet? Let's catch up with Paul and hear what he's got to say. Excellent. Paul, Hanna, you guys are developing WindRunner, which I have to say, and I didn't say this to everyone, I think this is the coolest thing that I've seen at the fair so far. And I've seen a lot of cool things in Farnborough, but could you tell us what it's all about? What are we looking at behind us here?
We're building this plane to essentially supersize onshore wind. In order for the world to meet its environmental goals, climate targets, Paris Accord, net zero 2050, a number of research houses, for example, Bloomberg New Energy Finance, projects that onshore wind needs to be 40% of the world's energy mix in order to be part of hitting those climate targets. So today, onshore wind is much smaller than that. Based on that 40% that Bloomberg projects, that means that 1 million new onshore turbines need to be deployed between now and 2050. That represents a $10 trillion market. The challenge today is today's onshore turbines, 75 meters in blade length. It takes a year and a half to plan to move just one blade from a manufacturing site to the wind farm, or from the port of entry to a wind farm, typically 1,000-kilometer journey. And the reason for that is, if you've ever seen these big blades being transported, getting through tunnels or getting under bridges or getting around curves is extremely problematic, even for rail. So ground transportation kind of has hit its peak. And quite honestly, all of the best cherry-picked wind locations have already been selected because they're easy to get to, right? So the way Radia started, and it was founded back in 2016, was to put a dent in climate change. And around that time, believe it or not, two wind turbine competitors, Siemens Gamesa and Vestas, put out a cry for help to the industry. Because historically, their innovation has been to increase the size of these onshore turbines because you have all sorts of benefits from a physics point of view. For example, you could double or triple the output power. So as you double the blade length, the swept area, you quadruple the power output.
Really?
And as you go higher up, you have stronger wind speed, and power output is cubic to wind speed. So you get all of these economic benefits, which is why these big machines are deployed offshore. Offshore is a little bit easier because they just need to get to a shoreline, put on a barge, and go out to the ocean. So if today we have problems moving 75-meter blades, how the heck are we going to move what we need to meet our climate objectives?
And I mean the dimensions of this bird, if I can call it a bird, is super impressive. I mean, we saw the dynamics. We'll maybe film it and cut it in later on. But for the people that are listening to podcasts, we're talking about an aeroplane that's basically double the size or 4 times the size if you go for breadth and width of an A380 or an Antonov. Is that the right way of describing it?
So the cargo volume is 12 times that of a 747.
Wow.
And It will be the largest plane. It'll be bigger than the Antonov and the A380. But it has been designed around the existing product catalog of things that are already certified and flying on Airbus and Boeing planes today. And the reason we did that, among others, is we really wanted to de-risk the program. In fact, we've taken a very de-risked approach to the whole business. And so what you see here is a design leveraging existing components, bringing them together in an innovative way, and applying them to a new sector, to an innovative solution. And so the wings deliberately are short, relatively speaking. In fact, they're within the envelope of what an A380 is. So anywhere an A380 could take off and land or be put in a hangar, so could this. The unique thing about this, however, is it is 108 meters long. As I said, the cargo volume is 12x a 747, so it can carry a 105-meter blade.
105-meter blade.
Offshore size blades, for example. And it can take off and land on semi-prepared dirt strips at the wind farm or at the manufacturing.
So it doesn't need an actual airport landing strip runway to actually land on.
Not at all. In fact, when wind farms are getting constructed, you have the normal equipment, bulldozers and whatever to clear that's all that's needed. The, existing stuff. And so the beauty of this is man knows how to make these bigger machines and understands the physics that brings to the table.
Yep.
And so what we're doing is we're supersizing onshore wind. And the only way to do it is to leverage an aircraft like WindRunner to do it.
This is a super short break and the only break in the podcast. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I'd just like to do a quick thank you to our sponsors, which right now is my own company, Progress Factors. If you'd like it to be your company and you'd like to become a sponsor of this series, then please do reach out and get in touch with us. There's all the contact information at the end of the film. Similarly, if you've got a great story to tell us and you'd like us to do a podcast with you, then please contact us and tell us what you're doing to save the planet and how you're integrating wonderful working practices into your business model. And finally, if you'd like us to help you to accelerate your own agenda and to earn more money through doing the right thing, then once again, please check out the end of the film where there's all the contacts to us, or the end of the podcast, depending whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it on one of our streaming services.
When the company was founded, and in response to the two turbine OEMs that I mentioned, we started to figure out, okay, how can we do this? And we looked at airships, we looked at VTOL, we looked at all sorts of different ways you could solve this ground transportation issue. And all of them proved to either be uneconomical, untenable, or just impossible. For example, would an airship work? An airship delivering a big, huge, multi-ton cargo hanging from...
That's made to catch wind, right?
That's made to catch wind, but it's bringing it to a wind farm that arguably is very windy.
Yeah.
And the ballast that's required for an airship, once you drop that huge payload, we looked at, or the turbine OEMs have experimented with segmented blades. There's been talk about putting manufacturing sites at the wind farm. But as you start to peel back the onion on all of these different, and helicopters, you begin to realize that they just won't work. Aircraft, existing components, no new infrastructure. And so Radia has both an energy side to its business and an aerospace side.
You're actually helping to build wind farms as well as transporting parts to get there, right?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, Radia is an energy company. at the beginning of the day as well. And we're in early stage development with a number of wind farms internationally, including in the US and North Africa.
Yeah. Places you couldn't easily get to with normal vehicles, I guess. Somewhere where you need to go through the air to get there.
That's right. Now, to be clear, we're happy to transport somebody's 80-meter blades, but this is being designed to be able to transport blades that are over 100 meters. And if I get back to the physics for a moment, the beauty of what this does is it actually drives down the cost of energy by as much as 30%.
Yeah.
And the nice thing, or the amazing thing about that, is everybody wins. And if you think of all of the other energy transition technologies that are being discussed and that will be used, hydrogen, sustainable aviation fuel, ammonia, the thing that they have in common is a very significant part of their unit cost is the cost of the energy that goes into the process. So if you can bring down the cost of that electron 30% and put it into an electrolysis process as an example, hydrogen at the other end is going to be that much cheaper. So we really bring down the cost of energy tremendously. We expand with this plane the addressable onshore wind market by 3x. And it's a wonderful thing that fascinates and intrigues our partners. Both on the energy side, we're building an ecosystem of energy partners that are working with us on some of these projects, and an ecosystem of aerospace partners. And you've probably heard, as part of this show, we announced 3 of those partners this week.
And I'd like to ask you all about that, because I know we're a little bit tight on time. We have to be careful. You've got an important meeting. That's why you're here at this show, to have those sort of meetings. We really appreciate the time you found and the collaboration. That's the thing that we're passionate about at Progress Factors. Our thesis is quite simple. We say everything that we need to save the planet has already been invented. We just need to collaborate more. And it looks like you guys are doing a perfect example of that. If we see the things our clients have achieved throughout the years, either by internally between departments breaking down silos, or getting different companies with different technologies to work together. And maybe you could just tell us about the announcements, because I know we need to be careful that you get to that meeting. But
so I think it's really, really important, because as I look at the world today, innovation is becoming less about what you do within the four square walls of your building, and it's really part of a network. And so being able to bring together a network of partners in aerospace and energy to drive innovation is kind of like a tide lifts all ships. So we're allowing everybody in the ecosystem to do what they do, but to do it better. Turbine OEMs want to continue to grow their machines. It's beneficial, it's profitable, it's the right thing to do. Aerospace partners want to continue to sell existing product and leverage it. So the partners we announced this week included Leonardo, who is designing and developing the fuselage. Air Nova, who will be designing and developing the wing. And a company called A Fusion, which provides, among other things, safety solutions and services.
Pretty big hitters to get there. What a wonderful way to finish a podcast like this. And I guess there's one more question I'd like to know, because you're here to do business, but who should get in contact with you? Who would you like to collaborate more with? Who can we help through this podcast to get in contact with Radia? Who can we help?
So I think the easiest way, rather than trying to get all sorts of emails out there, is for somebody to go to our website. And on any page of the website, at the bottom, there's a place for media to make inquiries. There's a place for partners to there's the obvious things that you would hit to be able to get a message into Radia that would then be routed to the appropriate organization.
Excellent. All right then. Well, Paul, once again, thank you so much. It's been really fascinating. So I do hope you enjoyed listening to that podcast as much as I enjoyed actually interviewing the people that we spoke to today. As we mentioned halfway through the film, if you'd like us to support you and accelerate your own sustainability agenda, or if you'd maybe like to sponsor this podcast, or if you've just got something you'd like to chat to us about, which maybe could become the next podcast, then please do go over to either our LinkedIn profile. You can find us at Progress Factors, or my own LinkedIn profile is Nick Stanforth. Or you could also just go over old school to our website, which is www.progressfactors.com. Thanks for listening, and tune in for the next podcast as they keep being released.